Have you ever wondered why some ex-Muslims become so vocal against Islam and why their voices become amplified by some anti-Muslim groups? Let's break it down today.
Again, Islam has really, really dark elements to it where even if you're trying to converse with somebody, let's say, who's not as knowledgeable about Islam, you could sell Islam in a way that it could seem like this is just a beautiful culture, let's say, and let us fast and let us do what it is that we do. And so what? We're only demanding like a mosque and halal shops and this and that. But then, you think that that's all okay, that's guarding their way of life, but then it encroaches and encroaches.
So someone asked, what are the dark sides? And someone replied, slavery. Okay, so I'm not going to say anything. I've already made a video on slavery. Please, if you are interested in learning more about slavery, I recommend you watch this video. But this person gave a very good response to, that's not dark. We don't have that. We free slave, and that was from back before hundred of years. So just in summary, Islam liberated slaves, gave slaves right, and gave slaves a way to come out of slavery and get integrated in community as free people. I'll start with trying to understand the ex-Muslim experience. So someone leaving their religion is deeply personal. They may have a negative experience with Muslim community. They may have their doubts about the religion itself. It's important to respect their decision and journey and show empathy towards them. But it's also important to understand that not all criticism comes from a place of genuine understanding. The role of anti-Muslim groups that usually cooperate with ex-Muslims and fully support them. Sometimes their voices even take over. So how do I know it firsthand is when I make my ex-Muslim video, and I was shocked to see that so many comments are not from Muslims because their names are not Muslims. I am a Muslim from generations, and I know a Muslim name when I see one. So I was really shocked that these people were so vocal and they were not even ex-Muslims. These are the anti-Muslims who are supporting the ex-Muslim movement. But then the ex-Muslim movement is taking a completely different form. Those who are anti-Muslims, they don't have a personal experience with Islam. So it completely changes the movement. So anti-Muslims have their own agendas. What they do is that they weaponize these stories of ex-Muslim and use them against Islam. They generalize it against the entire faith and billions of people who are followers of that faith. Criticism against Islam is one thing, and I am open to it. If someone wants to have a respectful dialogue, I'm all up for it. But when that criticism become generalization, become hostile, and become hateful, that I'm not going to accept, and I'm not going to associate myself, and I'm not going to have a dialogue with someone who is using those tactics. Islam itself encourages critical thinking and questioning. I want to share a clip of an ex-Muslim that shows a typical example of how some ex-Muslim generalize their experiences to the whole entire religion and to the entire Muslim community.
I was in Jordan working with Iraqi and Syrian refugees, so Christians who suffered directly under ISIS. And I met this young girl, and I tell this story often, but truly this is one of those stories that impacted me so deeply. I think about it almost every day, if not every day. Mm-hmm. We entered into this home, and there was this young, beautiful girl. She must have been about 19 or 20 years old. And we sat down with her family, and they began to tell us their story. So they told us that while they were living in Iraq, ISIS, or Islamist militants, came into their home and asked them, "Are you Christian?" And they knew that their yes was going to cost them everything. So of course they said yes, and ISIS killed their brother in front of the family, kidnapped the sister. The sister became an ISIS slave, and told the family that they had 24 hours to convert or be killed.
So she named this video True Face of Islam, and she's talking about ISIS. So this is the generalization I'm talking about. When critiques are generalized like this, they are not helpful or constructive, they are just harmful. So you are generalizing what ISIS did to 1.9 billion Muslims and to the entire faith of Islam. You really haven't learned Islam then. And one thing that's very typical of anti-Muslim, and they do it out of their hostility and anger, and right now it's so difficult to differentiate between ex-Muslim and anti-Muslim because they all are together in one group, is that they will pick certain points of Islam. I know all those points. They are going to pick those points and start bashing a Muslim or start asking a Muslim that question in a very demeaning manner. I've had some non-Muslim people who are Christians, and they have asked certain questions, certain troubling questions with Muslim scholars in a very respectful way and in a way that they want to understand. So if that's your mindset and that's your attitude, that you want to understand the religion, and when you have doubts you want to understand why this thing is like that, that is fully acceptable. But when you have already made your mind and your agenda is that you are not going to listen and you are going to use all these points as weapons against Islam, that's when it becomes very destructive. I still share empathy towards ex-Muslims who want to share their story and who have gone through traumatic journeys. I actually want to invite an ex-Muslim who had a very traumatic journey or who had some doubts about Islam and they left Islam, but not someone who is straight up hostile. I'm not going to engage with anyone like that. So if someone is open to sharing their story, I'm more than willing to listen. And I'm more than willing to share that story. Or even if you have doubts about the religion itself, I am very willing to listen to those doubts and share my point of view. That's how dialogues happen. I want to share one more video, and this video is from a Muslim regarding ex-Muslim and what she feels.
Ex-Muslims, Pakistani ex-Muslims and Iranian diaspora ones as well. I don't have an issue with anybody choosing to leave a religion, and if they're choosing to leave Islam, that's totally up to them. I personally do not have an issue with that. What I do find really annoying though is, why is it that the only thing that you people want to talk about 24/7 is the religion that you've left? There has to come a point in your life where, in order to get over the trauma of whatever it is that's caused you this harm, is you've also got to move past it. But when it comes to like certain ex-Muslims, like their entire identity and talking points is to basically hate on Islam all the time. And that is my point. Like, there are so many other things that you can have in common with the people, but when you constantly just want to draw from your own traumatic experiences and then project them onto Muslims, it's a bit annoying.
When you criticize something, it's different, and hostility is different, and hostility shows. At first I thought they became real activists because they are projecting their anger, but it's way deeper than that. Seriously, it is way deeper than that. When I made my ex-Muslim video, I realized that a lot of these groups have anti-Muslim groups attached to them, and they have their own agendas of talking really badly about Islam, faith of Islam, and criticizing Muslims and making fun of Muslims, which is not right. In the end, I want to say that Muslims dismissing every ex-Muslim as an enemy is not going to solve the problem. And ex-Muslims generalizing personal experience over an entire faith, an entire community, is just going to bring more division and more hostility. And it's definitely not healthy. So in the end, I'll say it again that I am very interested in having a dialogue and sharing my opinion and my journey and my understanding on Islam from being raised in a very traditional Muslim family and then distancing myself from Islam and becoming spiritual agnostic for 3 to 4 years and then coming back to Islam and getting all my doubts and questions answered. And the way I came back to Islam was when I was in a 10-day silent meditation retreat, and I felt in my heart that Allah is calling me towards Islam. And when I returned to Islam this time, all my doubts, all my questions have been answered automatically. So I am more than willing to have a dialogue with someone who wants to understand Islam or someone who just wants to share their experience and doubts about Islam.